Well, hello and welcome to Wellness by Design today. I'm your host, Jane Hogan, the Wellness Engineer. Today, I've got a great interview for you with one of my mentors, Dr. Sue Morter. I absolutely love her work, love her book, The Energy Codes. I actually became a facilitator to teach the energy codes because I love this work and her philosophy so much. So, this interview was part of my Becoming Pain Free Summit. I think you're really going to like it. It's about the biofield, your energy, the connection of your subconscious mind, and how you can use these tools and expand your energy for health and healing. And she also does a great breathwork demonstration of central channel breathing, which is a very energizing breathing that pulls all your energy right back to the core of you where it belongs. Hope you enjoy it. Welcome to the Becoming Pain Free Summit. This event is all about giving you the inspiration, the knowledge, and the tools to help you address root causes of chronic pain so that you can be free to live your life on your terms and not be missing out on things you love to do because of pain. I'm your host, Jane Hogan, the Wellness Engineer. Today in this session, we're going to be talking about energy and the biofield and how you can use it for health and healing. I am so thrilled to welcome Dr. Sue Morter to our discussion today. Welcome, Dr. Sue.
Thank you, Jane. It's always a pleasure to be here and engage in these kinds of conversations. So I look forward to where we get to go today.
Well, I'm really thrilled to have you here because your work has been such an inspiration in my life, and I'm just really happy to share it with the audience. So I'm going to tell them a little bit about you in case they haven't heard of you before. Dr. Sue Morter is an international speaker, celebrated author, teacher, and doctor with over 30 years of experience, bringing together ancient wisdom traditions with cutting-edge quantum science. Her highly praised The Energy Codes guides you to unprecedented levels of self expression, health, and healing by building neural circuitry to raise your cellular vibrational frequency. Dr. Sue's visionary models and techniques ignite an entirely new approach to accessing creative genius and living from personal freedom. We are going to talk a little bit about science that's been around for a while, but it might be new to some people. And that is the biofield, bioenergy, and how we can use this. Because people don't really realize they already are this. So when you're having a conversation about this, Dr. Sue, if someone was brand new to it, where would you begin by talking about biofield, bioenergetics?
Sure. So, what science is coming to realize is that everything is actually energy. When we were trying to figure out what the basic foundational element of this existence on Earth is, and we were trying to figure that out so that if we had an idea of that, we could maybe manage it better and utilize it to our full advantage. And so when they started studying matter, the smaller and smaller and smaller the particles that they could study, the molecules, the atoms, and then the subatomic particles, once the electron microscope was invented, they started realizing that the smaller they got, they realized that there was actually nothing in between the particles. Then they started studying the particles themselves and realized that even that was just a compression of energy, that there's actually nothing here. It's just compressed energy. So let me just flip that over and say that all physical matter is compressed energy. It's all energy. The chair that you're sitting in, the screen that you're watching, the car that you drive, the thoughts that you think, the body that you're living inside of, all of it is just compressed energy. And so that started to change a lot of our understanding about what form is and who we are and how health could happen and what differences we could make, because we know that energy is never created or destroyed. It's just changed into different forms. It's changed into different presentations. And so if we have a form that isn't functioning right, that we could energetically learn to shift the energy with our own consciousness, and that we could actually have an effect on our own ability to heal. And this was, transformational when it came to someone trying to to, heal some long-standing injury or become pain-free or whatever the case may be. It also was applicable in many other areas of life, but it became, very significant for those who were really wanting to have a change happen in their physical world, to realize that we could move the energy differently and have a different outcome. So so the biofield is just bioenergetics, just mean that energy that applies to the whole of the world and the whole of the universe as it applies to the human body. It's called the biofield. So the energy fields that are creating this human system. Actually, I can show you an image. Let me just show you a picture that I think will help a lot. That basically this energy is pouring down, hitting the earth, rising up again, and cycling and recycling and recycling. And this energy field that is recycling is constantly being replenished, and it's constantly rising up as it hits the earth, rising up and recycling and recycling. And it has the opportunity to heal and to change and to flush and to replenish and rejuvenate all the while, all the time. It has the opportunity to be doing that. But if we don't know how to facilitate that process, then it kind of gets stuck in a pattern like this, where it's descending and hitting the earth and rising up through this system. And it's going around all of the issues and unresolvedness that we have inside of our emotional states and our physical injuries, etc. And it creates a wobble. And that wobble creates a distortion in the energy field. And that distortion continues to have an influence on our system. So we're affecting it and it's affecting us, and it's happening back and forth all the time. So this is what we're made of. It's this flowing stream of energy. And that energy is either flowing in a way that's allowing us to heal, or it's flowing in a way that is maintaining inflammation and pain patterns and lethargy and lack of vital force and an inability to think straight or an inability to sleep well. It's everything. So now we start to think, oh, okay, so this is about how energy flows through my system. And is it flowing in a way that allows for healing, or is it flowing in a way that keeps me for months or years or even decades feeling in a way that I don't want to feel? And if so, then what can I do about that? And hopefully we'll speak about that today a little bit, about what can we do about that?
So explain in such a beautiful way, Dr. Sue, like a simple way for people to understand, and with your diagram. The people that are watching this are in pain. So they're like, okay, I guess my energy is not flowing. How did that happen in the first place? How did it happen that their energy wasn't flowing? And then we'll move to how can we get it flowing again? So what causes that wobble and that distortion?
Sure, great question. So if someone's going along, minding their own business, they're 4 years old, they decide to draw a picture for mom. So they get out their crayons and they're doing their thing, and they're drawing the house and the tree and the car and the driveway and all of this. And they're so elated to go and share this with mom. And so they go get mom and they bring her to show her, look what I did for you. And their heart's wide open and they're just all about, so proud and sharing this gift. And mom looks at it, and instead of like being delighted and happy and loving you back, there is a scream because you drew it on the dining room wall instead of on a piece of paper. Okay. So the 4-year-old is like, it was there. That's what I used. And the mom is afraid, or is freaked out, is angry, upset. And so now the 4-year-old is like, I'm never going to, this is all happening at a subconscious level, I'm never going to open-heartedly create and express myself and my vulnerability and just go out there and give it all I have, because, you get nailed as a byproduct of that. And so you get disappointed, or you disappoint someone that you care about, or all of this happens, and it goes into the subconscious, and it starts shutting down circuits in our system that are designed to keep this energy flowing properly. And now there is one of these being created, one of these dark bars that you see here. It's not really a dark bar in your system. It's just indicating circuits being shut down. So think of it like if you were to go to the circuit box in your house, the breaker box, and start throwing some of those breaker switches off, what would happen in that moment is, certain circuitry would just get shut down. And the same thing happens in our system on an energetic level, on a neurologic level, based on memory patterns and the amygdala and hippocampus and the conscious and subconscious areas of the brain that are all supposed to be working in synchrony. They start shutting doors and basically saying, danger, not going back there. So now when that person is 25 years old and their boss is asking them to come up with a creative solution to something, that part of their brain is like, I don't do that, because you get nailed when you express your creativity. And so that not only can shut someone down on a functional level, it can also shut us down in areas of the body that are specifically related in terms of our expressing ourselves and going for it and taking an action. So that person literally could end up with pain patterns or weaknesses in the body along the area of their neck, their low back, their sensations of being supported in the world, or being free to speak their truth, or to come forward in some way. And so it's also very interrelated, and that's kind of what the biofield is teaching us, is the relationship between physical pain patterns, emotional states, psychological conclusions that we've drawn, things that we've suppressed or kind of stepped around. And there's such an intricate relationship there that so many people don't realize, that once we do realize it and we do understand those connections, we can start flipping those breaker switches back on and having a system begin to flow like this again, rather than flowing, like this alternative version.
Flow like it's supposed to flow. So I know we've talked about how everything is energy. And then I find it really interesting in your work, you say that our life is a reflection of our energy. And so what exactly do you mean by that? We talked about it a little bit, but people might think, well, I didn't really bring this on. I didn't bring this pain on, but yet it's a reflection of our energy. So yeah, let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah. So Jane, it's about life on the subconscious level. Our subconscious is actually driving our lives. It's determining how much pain we're in, how much freedom we're experiencing. It is determining how free we feel to express ourselves, or to love, or to be loved, or to be successful or not. It's all at the subconscious level. Otherwise, we would all decide to be healthy and wealthy and, I don't know, living on an island somewhere, walking on the beach every day. And it would happen. And so if that's not happening, if that's what somebody wanted and it wasn't happening, whatever it is that someone desires, if it is not happening, it's not because of the conscious mind. It's because of information that is kind of locked in at a subconscious level. I actually think I have another little image here that I could show that might be helpful for us to understand what I'm referring to. And so I do. Here it is. So this conscious mind is up above this line. Our subconscious is below this line. And as long as there's a doorway open there, what we think about can come about in our bodies and in our lives, because we're constantly creating our life experience. And if this door slams shut, we can think that we want something to be a certain way. But if at the subconscious level, it isn't, that same message isn't getting through, then subconsciously we're still responding to whatever message did come through before this doorway slammed shut. And if that message happened to be, fight or flight, an anger situation, an upset situation, if it happened to be something that was of danger, we could still be responding to that danger message, even if the danger is gone. And so years, decades later, an individual could start to feel exhausted, start to wear things out, because internally, subconsciously, their system is still running from the bear, fighting the bear, etc., to a degree that it's unable to sense and feel that the bear is gone. And so adrenaline is being exhausted, the adrenal glands are exhausted, the thyroid kicks in, trying to make up for that. A person's ability to keep their immune system robust under those conditions is greatly threatened. And so now they're vulnerable, they're susceptible, they're not healing the way that they should, and they can't put the pieces together because that doorway could have slammed shut based on something that happened years prior. And their body was able to adapt and make up for that and compensate for it for a long time. But eventually the resources get depleted under those conditions because we're not designed to fight a bear or run from a bear 24 hours a day for 10 years. Our system is obviously going to exhaust. So now the person wakes up out of bed and they're like, oh, I'm getting old, I guess. But it isn't that they're getting old. It's that they're not rejuvenating and replenishing the way that they would be if that trapdoor were open and the system were allowed to function the way that it's supposed to function. So we don't directly decide, I want to suffer, I want to have back pain, I want to have headaches, I want to have an immune disorder. It's the system is developing it over time because the system isn't allowed to run the way that it's designed to run. And so there are things that we can do to get the trapdoor open and get the energy flowing again and become self-healing and self-rejuvenating and replenishing again and create a biofield that is chemically balanced and that is nurturing and supporting a healing and strong immune environment. And people just need to learn how to do that. And that's what, that's what the beauty of our world right now is kind of bringing to us. More people are leaning in and listening to, how can I be strong and how can I be healthy no matter what's going on in the world and no matter what new bug is going to show up next year and so forth. And this is what we're here to awaken to. We're here to realize there's much more going on here than we might have ever realized. We have much more empowerment to do something about our health and vitality than perhaps we were ever raised knowing. I happen to have been raised in an environment where this was the conversation. And so, I've never taken an antibiotic for it to heal something. I know how the body can heal itself. And so that's what I love teaching people how to do. So
I love all of that. So the trap door ends up getting closed because of situations that put us in that fear state, and then it stays closed. That's correct?
Yes, we're designed to rise to the occasion if there's an emergency. And when the emergency's over, we're supposed to come back down out of that. But if there are too many emergencies in our lives all at one time, that's what has that slamming shut of the trap door effect. Too many stresses, like there's too much going on at work. There's, an argument happening at home. I can't get my kids to understand the value of I don't know, doing their homework or the value of staying away from drugs or whatever might be combining. And then I'm driving to the grocery store and somebody rear ends me at the stoplight. Boom, 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 boom. Like one too many things all at the same time. Too many bears. That information coming into the system all at once has this short-circuiting effect on the relationship between the conscious and the subconscious, two different areas of the brain. Now they're not talking to each other anymore. There's a door that slams shut between them. And now we can get home from that accident, get to the grocery store, get home. We could be the weekend and we're not having to work and the kids are home and everybody seems to be at peace. But yet the system is still locked in. And the last message that got through before the trapdoor slammed shut was one too many bears. And so this person can't relax, even though it's a great opportunity to enjoy herself or himself. And they're uptight, they're rigid, they're not sleeping well, because if a bear is in the room with you, which your body is thinking that it is, falling into a deep restful sleep is the last thing that it's going to do. It's going to stay on top of things, one eye open, checking out every noise, every sound, up immediately, because it could be the bear. And so we get into these scenarios and we don't even realize how they're happening. And they happen, and it's very real. And this slamming shut of the trapdoor can occur, and it can remain slammed shut for decades, and a person not even know it because they were strong and they could do this, they could get away with things. And over time, it just starts, using up the savings account before you really realize that you were spending all that money. You just got used to it, right? It's like that.
All right, I want to get to the hope part and how people can get out of it, but just let's link back to, okay, this is going on. The trap door gets shut. How does that affect us energetically then, and then create the wobble? Like, what's the link between those?
Great. Okay, so let me just say that the trap door is the communication between the thalamus and the hypothalamus. If anybody is studied up in that department and wants to know, what's he talking about? And it's where the amygdala and the hippocampus all come together, and we're being influenced by our memory and our present situations and our gut feelings, and they're supposed to all come together in a way that works for us. And so when that slams shut, there's just a big disconnect. So the short circuiting that we were speaking about with some of this, with the breaker box, basically when the trap door slams shut, that's when these things are getting created. That's when the breakers in the breaker box are shutting down. And now we're trying to run on fewer faculties than we were trying to run on before. A byproduct of that is someone's energy level starts to decline. It's getting depleted. They don't have the immunity. They don't have the robust desire. They can become depressed. They can become anxious. They can become kind of paranoid in their thinking because things aren't working the way they used to, and they have this feeling inside of them, and they don't know what that is all about. It feels like this anxiousness, but the anxiousness itself is simply it's the blockage of that energy that is trying to move through this channel. So when this energy is rising and it hits one of these areas or one of these areas or one of these areas that don't have the circuits running, it's like a superhighway. There is a gap in the road that we're having to drive around. And when we're having to drive around that gap all the time, it utilizes all of our energy, and it causes us to waste that energy. And when the energy hits up against one of these areas, we feel it like a knot in our stomach. And if it keeps hitting it, it feels like anxiousness inside the system. And it is simply us reacting to something from the past instead of being present with who and what we actually are in this now moment. And learning how to cultivate that flow of energy again is very, very helpful. And by nature, by design, we're built to reestablish that flow so that it is occurring up and down through this central channel on an ongoing basis. And so we do things like a central channel breath, we meditate, we learn how to breathe in the belly, we drop down in. And by doing these things, we're starting to stabilize the system and concentrate that energy again so that it can run up and down, ascend and descend through the body so that it can recreate that field of flow that the biofield is in such a fashion that it represents healing and wholeness instead of a distorted reality. Because inside of this distorted energy field, this person looks out through that and they see a world that doesn't care, opportunities that don't exist for them. It starts to shut down their hope and their inspiration because they're seeing it in an altered way. They literally can't see the possibilities because they're in a distorted reality. And they always do worst case scenarios. They always think that it's not going to work in their favor. So they don't even try, or those kinds of scenarios unfold.
And can lead to even illnesses. I mean, from what I've seen and I've heard so many of the speakers on the summit talk about stress being like the underlying cause of so many illnesses and pain. And it makes total sense with what you're saying, because stress then will distort that bioenergy field. And then, it might start off as a lump in the throat, but then it might turn into full-on neck pain that's chronic and doesn't go away. So let's talk about, there's hope, of course. And what I love about the work that you're doing is that it's very empowering for people, because the work is for them to do. No one else can do it, right? They've got to do it. So foundational to your work is this getting this energy flowing through the channel again. And so can we go through a little experience of that for the audience?
Absolutely. You mentioned stress, and this is a picture of stress. That's what stress is. We
Right.
actually create the stress, whether we realize it or not, by the reactions that we have to the things that occur. It isn't what happens in our lives that is the stress. It's how we respond to it that creates the stress that will either allow us to be strong and healthy or that will take us out of the game. And so by building this central channel continuity, we build an ability to respond to what happens, no matter what happens, with grace, with ease, with strength, with an inherent knowing that we're okay, we're fine. No matter what it is that's happening out there, we're fine. And so it's kind of hard to get to that feeling in this sort of disrupted, distorted, configuration. And so we're going to central channel breathe right up and down here right now. We're going to just start breathing in this way, and it starts to create an intention, and the energies begin to follow that. And it starts to carve a pathway. Instead of going around all this, it starts to build some new pathways of orientation. It's a way to begin. And so if you could imagine a channel of energy coming right down through the top of your head, through the center of your brain, the center of your throat, through the center of your chest, through the center of your belly, right down through the tip of your spine and into the earth. And that channel is this central channel that we're speaking about. It's a measurable, very real component to the biofield, and it is called the toric field flow that we're describing. So we're breathing up and down the eye of the storm. It's kind of like a tornado. It's like the eye of the storm. We're right there in the middle, in the driver's seat, of how to get this field working robustly. And so if we take a breath from above our head, and just as if you had a blowhole in the top of your head, you just kind of make that up, that you're breathing in through this blowhole right into the center of the brain, the throat, the chest, all the way to your belly. Just take a deep breath in, drawing that breath into your belly. Your belly gets big on the inhale. Now we're going to pull the belly back toward the spine and shoot that breath down into the earth, down through the tip of the spine and into the earth. And then we're going to breathe from the earth up through the tip of the spine, back up into the belly. And then we're going to exhale up through the chest, through the throat, through the center of the brain, and shoot it right out the top of the head again. And then take a breath from overhead, right down through the center of the brain, the throat, the chest, the belly. And then exhale right down through the tip of the spine and into the earth. And when we do this, we're starting to establish this central channel. Now, there's some things that we can do to anchor ourselves in that, to even concentrate it even more. So liken this to if you were trying to water the flowers across the patio and the hose wouldn't reach and the water wasn't reaching, you would put your thumb over the end of the garden hose in order to get the water to reach the plants at the other side of the patio. And by squeezing down the aperture, that water can go further because we're increasing the force by decreasing the amount, the opening through which it is moving. And so we're doing the same thing when we start to squeeze some of the tissues along the way of this central channel. So if we just pull our shoulder blades together and drop them down, and if we start to squeeze the muscles in the base of the pelvic bowl, just as if you were going to the bathroom and you had to stop the stream, there are muscles in the base of the pelvic bowl around the perineum that will constrict and contract, that you have conscious ability to do so. And so if you squeeze those muscles just the same as if you were going to the bathroom and you had to stop the stream, squeeze those muscles and squeeze your shoulder blades together, and then take a belly breath. Breathe in your belly and exhale, pull your navel back to your spine, and inhale, big belly breathing, and exhale, pull it back to the spine. Now you're starting to get an idea of how we can actually create more power of this breath. So by squeezing the blades together and then squeezing the muscles in the base of the pelvic bowl, let's take a breath from overhead, right down through the throat, through the chest, right in front of where those muscles are squeezed together, into the belly. And now squeeze those muscles in the base of the pelvic bowl and shoot the breath down into the earth. And then release those muscles and inhale up from the earth, and then squeeze them again and squeeze the shoulder blades together. And now let's roll your eyes up and shoot that breath right up through a channel. It's like we're creating this elevator shaft inside the body with our awareness. And now inhale from overhead, right behind the eyes, where that tension you can feel in the muscles working when you roll your eyes up, through the throat, right between where those shoulder blades are being squeezed into the belly. Now squeeze those muscles in the base of the pelvic bowl again and shoot the breath right down into the earth. Then just release the muscles. Inhale up from the earth into the belly. Then squeeze those muscles again. And squeeze your shoulder blades. Roll your eyes up and exhale right up through the chest, the throat, the center of the brain, and shoot this breath right out the top of the head. So you're probably, now just relax your eyes and relax everything. And let's just talk for a second. You're probably starting to feel some spaciousness in the brain, some thickness in the air. This awareness is actually starting to raise our vibrational frequency. When we raise our vibrational frequency, we become the healer. When we raise our vibrational frequency, we start to open the trap door. The trap door is right behind where you're rolling your eyes up and you can feel that tension behind your eyes. That's in the brain, kind of where the location is that this trap door exists. And so when we can concentrate by contracting these muscles and breathing up and down through the central channel in this sort of way, we start to create a raised concentration of energy in our core. And in that raised concentration of energy, we're raising our vibration. We're increasing our vibrational frequency, which allows the trapdoor to open and the subconscious to receive the information that the bear is actually gone. The bear actually isn't here anymore. Perhaps for the first time that it has been aware of such a thing in a decade or more in someone's life. And so by breathing up and down through this central channel, we initiate a process that allows for this superhighway to start building some bridges where these gaps in the road are based on past experiences where we shut down. If your father ever yelled at you, if a teacher ever ridiculed you, if someone on the playground ever nailed you, if a boss ever had something negative to say about you in a meeting, if a spouse was demeaning to you or a child was disrespectful to you, no matter what it is, these things have the capacity until we start to raise our vibration to a degree that we can see from a totally different level of consciousness. Until that happens, we've been at the effect of our outer environment, and it shuts down these parts of who we are and creates a lack of healing in the body. And so we're here to change that. And so we're here to learn how to raise our vibration, how to activate the energy centers of our system, the levels of consciousness that we are meant to be tapping so that we're creators and healers instead of reactors and survivors. And as a byproduct of that, lots of things change in our lives.
So good, so good. And that was fantastic, this central channel breathing practice, a little introduction to it. And I know from my own life and from many other people I've taught it to as well, it's very, very powerful. But your work, the energy codes, this is like one tool. You've got many tools that help people switch from that side of being in reactive mode all the time to being creators of their life. So do you want to touch on any of that a little bit? Just give people a little introduction to the energy codes?
Well, the energy codes are a series of many, many practices and ways of thinking and ways of being that we can be that allow us to put all of the pieces of life together so that it makes sense. Many of us have tried to exercise, or we've tried healing modalities, we've tried diet and nutrition, we've tried meditation or breath work in the past. And what the energy codes does is weave it together in a way that actually works. That we're able to address enough of our individual components of the whole self simultaneously that we get enough momentum to open these trapdoors and keep them open and get this energy flowing in a way that is automatically self-healing and self-regulating and self-illuminating. They're all designed to raise our vibration, but not just raise our vibration, but to integrate and to ground ourselves inside of this system. Sometimes we get up in our heads and we start thinking too much and we have too many good ideas and we start all kinds of projects and we don't really land them, and they never really become anything. And we dream and we wish and we are inspired and we try, but things don't actually come together in a way that is successful or beneficial or sustainable or financially rewarding if it's something that someone's trying to do in their world. And so I teach people how to open their system, how to integrate their system, and how to embody their highest vibrational frequency selves. Our highest self is completely capable of anything that we would ever desire to accomplish. We are completely capable of that. We hear that we're this infinite potential, and that, no matter what it is that we attempt to do, that we can do. I have another image that's coming to mind as we're talking about it, and these images are kind of wild, but I like to show them to people just to open up some doorways for people that we think this is who we are. Here's that little toric field down here that we've been talking about, and that there's actually an immense high frequency version of us that is actually running the show. This one is here, trying to come into this life and out into the world to live. And that's our highest potential. So 20 years ago, I literally woke up inside of meditation at this state of consciousness, and it changed my life forever. And that is why I developed the energy codes, because it was a codified way for me to return to this state of consciousness and to actually live as that here in this world. And that's, it's what we're all built to do. And so I've created a few other images here that might be kind of helpful to see that on another level, that we're made of the cosmos. Literally, we are made of the universe. There is no energy that exists out here that doesn't exist in here. And this one is kind of helpful for people to kind of put that together. The universe compresses. We spoke earlier in our conversation today about the fact that everything is energy. This is the energy, and that is conscious energy, and it is compressing itself into a channel. It hits the earth and rises up and recycles and recycles. And inside of that recycling, we formulate a body. And we are here creating this body to navigate us out through this world. And so if we're in pain, we definitely are not allowing this to be who we are. We have shut this off, and we're just trying to survive here as this individual on the lower half of this image. And that's challenging. So the energy codes are teaching people how to wake up to all of that, to animate it, to integrate it, and to allow the universal mind to be your mind, and to allow the universal potential to be literally your potential. And lastly, I have this other image that I'd like to share, that whole universe is coming down and channeling and recycling, and then we roll it out and project ourselves onto a movie screen. And then we're walking around, inside of that movie. We're just like walking through life, doing all this and projecting into this world. That's what quantum science is showing us. And so when we put those pieces together, we become self-healers. And so when we're saying, hey, I just got headaches, I didn't know about this whole universal thing. It's time for us to know about this whole universal thing. And quantum science is definitely bridging the worlds and making it possible for us to learn how to do this and to integrate and to have the power that we dream of having to manifest the life that we would love living. So,
Dr. Sue, I love those diagrams. Really help people see a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? And there's a quote in your book that I really love. We're familiar with the one where, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, but you say we are spiritual beings having a spiritual experience in a human body. And that is a whole different paradigm
right.
When we think of ourselves as the powerful beings that we really are. And we are not meant to be limited by pain or any other physical or emotional pain, anything like that. So your system just helps people become that version of themselves where, it's not just about getting past pain is how I see it. It's letting all that come through, and then the pain and the illness go away as a byproduct. And so it's just beautiful work. So thank you so much for this, Dr. Sue.
Absolutely. Lastly, I would just like to say that if we are in pain, think of pain as the caboose on a train. It's the caboose. Pain is it's a symptom. It's an outpicturing because of something else. It's a symptom. And we're here to learn how to address the cause rather than treat the symptom. And what I'm starting to integrate by sharing just these simple breathing practices with you is how you begin to find the cause instead of just trying to treat the symptoms. Because
Right.
we are plagued in a world that is treating symptoms with so many medications and surgical procedures that might not be necessary. And I've spent, my career as a doctor in a clinic helping people to come off of those externalized ideas and to return to their own true ability to heal. And so now in the workshops that I teach online and teach in person, I'm showing people how to be proactive, to go forward on the train toward the engine and work there, so that wherever that caboose ends up, it's because we consciously and intentionally were able to take it into a pain-free environment, so that we're truly living the life that we were intended to be living. So
Mm. And Dr. Sue, you've got students all over the world, like
yes,
95 countries or more around the world.
yes.
And you've seen what kinds of healing stories or healing experiences have you seen in people?
Oh my goodness, in the last 35 years, close to 40 years, I've pretty much seen it all. I've had all sorts of people that were scheduled for surgeries the next week, be able to prevent them, from spinal surgeries to surgeries of organs and glands that they needed to have some intervention. And we were able to deliver intervention beforehand, and they never had to have the surgeries. We've had people that were in wheelchairs, that had been in wheelchairs for decades, to step up out of them and begin to have a life again, simply by turning on the circuits of their system. From migraine headaches, myself, I healed the scoliosis myself with these practices, which is a curvature in the spine. People that have long-standing injuries from automobile accidents or falling off of a ladder, that they've never been the same for 20 years since that happened, be able to reactivate and replenish and rejuvenate and get the body to finally take care of that. But if the body wasn't in a healing mode, if it was in an emergency fight or flight mode with that trapdoor slammed shut, the body was never trying to heal. So it wasn't that it couldn't heal, it didn't realize it was supposed to be healing something. If you think about fight or flight versus healing, it's two sides of a coin. You're on one or the other. And so if you're trying to fight the bear, run from the bear, your body is not trying to heal. It needs that energy to run from the bear. And so it's not spending energy healing. So what we're doing is flipping that over. We have people that have come off of medications and people whose eyesight has transformed and they've been able to change their prescriptions, and automobile accidents that left people, really compromised, just finally healing, finally transforming in their lives. Disease prognoses, people that were given months to live are living 15 years later to tell about it. It is truly the ultimate healing, comes from within, period. And if someone's been unable to heal from natural means, it usually is because the trapdoor is slammed shut and they just haven't been able to approach things in such a fashion that were enough angles at the same time to get the trapdoor open. And so we have the ability to tie those pieces together, and everyone has the ability to heal. So hopefully
So
that's
good,
helpful.
Dr. Sue. Um, okay, we're coming to the end now. Is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you really want to make sure the audience hears from you before we go out?
What just popped into my mind right there is that also mental and emotional issues, that were not just physical issues, that depression, anxiety, and feelings of isolation and feelings of, lethargy, or just not being inspired and feeling like stymied and frozen in life, have also been huge things that people have responded to. And it's important that I mention that as well. Lastly, I would just like to say, there's nothing broken. You're not broken. Just because you're in pain, you're not broken. There's nothing missing. There is nothing wrong. It's simply that the system isn't communicating and connecting and integrating. And if you can get yourself into a study of that, it's absolutely the best thing that you can ever do, is to turn on these circuits again and allow your body to self-heal. We were built to heal ourselves. And if it's not happening, there's a reason. And it's not that something's wrong. It's that connections. It's a circuitry issue. The connections in the circuitry have simply been shut down, or have never been encouraged to fire into this healing mode. And we have the ability to do that. And so I just want people to know that that no one gets left behind. Everyone has the ability.
Such a great message, Dr. Sue. Where can people find out more about you and follow you?
Oh, I'm pretty easy to find. drsuemorter.com. It's Morter, so it's DRSUE MORTER. And you can find me on social media. You can find me at the website. There's lots of courses that I offer in all sorts of ways that people can plug in and start to get a feel for how they too can begin to heal. So.
Ah, fantastic. Thank you so much for the beautiful work that you're doing in the world and giving people so much hope and helping them heal. And thank you so much for being part of this summit, Dr. Sue. I just so appreciate you doing this.
Absolutely. It's been a real pleasure. Anytime.
And thank you to the audience for your attention, for showing up today, and for taking in and doing these practices. And maybe you'll explore a little bit further to see how and understand how you actually can become your own healer. And then eventually work your way to becoming pain-free. Okay.